Welcome back to The Deep Dive. Today we're looking at Karin Larsson, an artist who, well, along with his wife Karin, kind of accidentally became a huge influence on interior design globally.
That's right. If you appreciate that bright, functional, airy feel of modern Scandinavian design, you probably owe something to the Larssons.
Absolutely. So our mission today is to really trace Larsson's path. He's often called the Norman Rockwell of Sweden, right?
Mm-hmm. And we want to analyze how this artist, who started in really unimaginable poverty, worked with his wife, Karin Bergöö Larsson, to create this idyllic vision of home life.
At their cottage, Lillehitness.
Exactly. And that aesthetic didn't just define his art, it actually had this profound impact on how people, well, how we design our homes today.
And we've got some great source material for this deep dive, looking at around 22 key facts about Karin Larsson. It covers his personal journey, the highs and lows, and really emphasizes that artistic partnership with Karin.
Yeah, you can't understand one without the other.
To really get why he was so focused on these perfect family scenes, though, we have to start at the beginning. And it was pretty grim.
It really was. Karin Larsson was born in 1853 in Stockholm's Gamla stan, and the sources paint a picture of just dire poverty.
Like actual squalor.
Oh, yes. Living crammed in with multiple other families, disease like cholera was a constant threat. It sounds like intense deprivation, both physically and, well, emotionally.
And the home life itself wasn't much better, was it?
No. The sources describe a really troubled dynamic. His mother worked incredibly hard as a laundress. But his father, he's described as a drunk and loveless man, apparently lacked self-control.
That's rough.
And there's this detail that just stands out. The father apparently had this deep-seated anger towards Karl. The sources say he cursed the day Karl was born.
Wow. Cursed the day he was born. That's incredibly dark.
It is, and you have to wonder how that kind of rejection must have shaped him.
You can almost see how it might fuel this later obsession with creating or painting the absolute perfect, loving family home. Like art as a counter-narrative to trauma.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
But even with that terrible start, there was a glimmer of hope, a turning point.
Right, the teacher.
Yes, exactly. When he was just 13, a teacher at his school for poor children saw something in him, encouraged him to apply to the Royal Swedish Academy of Arts.
And he got in, against the odds.
He did. He was accepted. Apparently, he felt socially out of place at first, which is understandable, but crucially, it was his way out.
And he didn't waste the opportunity.
Not at all. By 16, he was already moving up, promoted within the academy, even won a medal for nude drawing.
And he started earning money quite quickly, too, right? Supporting his parents.
Yeah, that's fascinating. He worked as a caricaturist for a paper called Casper and did graphic work for Nye Illustrated Tidning. And those wages, they allowed him to support his parents. He was literally drawing his family out of poverty.
Incredible drive, pure talent and determination.
Absolutely. And that success enabled him to move to Paris in 1877, to study further.
But Paris wasn't the big success story he hoped for initially.
No, it sounds like he found it quite frustrating. Impressionism was the big thing then, but Larsson just wasn't interested. He actively refused to join that movement.
Interesting. So why the pivot? He moved out of Paris, started working differently.
Well, the sources suggest it was a bit of a reset, artistically and psychologically. In 1882, he settled in the Scandinavian artist colony, Grèce-sur-Loing, outside Paris, seeking something perhaps more authentic.
And that's where he met Karin Bergöö.
That's the key moment. He met Karin, also a Swedish artist and designer, and his work just shifted dramatically. He moved almost entirely to watercolor.
Why watercolor, do you think?
It offered this lightness, speed, and immediacy, maybe. It just seemed to fit the atmosphere there, and very soon it fit the subject matter of his new life with Karin.
So this meeting with Karin really was the crucial partnership. Professionally, personally, everything.
Absolutely everything. They married in 1883, and they went on to have a large family, 8 children eventually.
8? Wow.
Yes. Suzanne, Ulf, Pontus, Lisbeth, Britta, Mats, Kirsty, and Esbjorn. And naturally, the children and Karin herself, they became his main models. His domestic life became his art.
And we really need to talk about Karin's role here, because the Larsson look isn't just Karl's.
Oh, not at all. We absolutely cannot discuss that aesthetic without emphasizing Karin. She was a powerhouse in her own right. She had also studied at the Royal Swedish Academy of Arts.
So she had formal training, real artistic skill.
Definitely. But she primarily channeled her artistic energy into the home, into design. And she was Karl's most important sounding board, his critic.
It's always interesting, that dynamic. Did the sources give a sense of whether that was a difficult choice for her, focusing domestically, or was it seen as a complementary partnership?
The material really paints it as this incredibly harmonious, complementary thing. Karl painted the scenes, the walls, but Karin was the one actively designing the space.
How so? What kind of things did she design?
Well, she handwove textiles, did embroidery, designed clothes. You know that famous striped pinafore apron seen in the paintings?
Oh.
That's still known as the Karin Fouclade, Karin's apron.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yes, and she designed furniture too. She'd have local carpenters build pieces to her specifications. She was basically engineering the whole aesthetic that Karl was capturing on paper.
So the home itself became their joint project.
Exactly. And the main stage for that arrived in 1888. Karin's father gave him a small timbered cottage called Lilla Hittnes in a village called Sundborn.
Just a little cottage.
It started small, but under their combined vision, it became one of the most famous, most recognizable artists' homes in the world.
And its design significance was huge, right? This wasn't just a pretty house.
Immense significance. What they did at Lilla Hittnes really embodied the principles of the arts and crafts movement, rejecting industrial stuffiness for handmade honesty for functional design.
And this was radical for Sweden at the time.
Totally radical. Before the Larssons, typical Swedish homes were apparently quite dark, very formal, heavy furniture often clustered in the middle of rooms.
And Karin changed all that.
Karin's vision completely turned that on its head. She brought in light, bright interiors, got rid of heavy curtains. She placed furniture along the walls to open up the space, make it feel bigger, more usable.
And blended in folk influences.
Yes, Swedish folk design was a key ingredient. But the main focus was always on style that was functional, comfortable, lived in. You mentioned a detail earlier from the sources.
Ah, yes, the sofa in the corner specifically for naps.
Exactly. That says it all, doesn't it? Comfort and practicality over stiff formality. That's the essence.
And that simplicity, that utility, that's basically the bedrock of modern Scandinavian design we see everywhere today.
It really is. The Victoria and Albert Museum actually has a great quote, crediting their joint effort. They noted the contrast, Karl's sort of effusive, flowery wall paintings, alongside Karin's more structured, often abstract, but still colorful textile designs.
Creating a perfect whole.
That's the phrase they used, a perfect whole.
It's just amazing. So every time you walk through an IKEA or admire that bright, clean, functional aesthetic, you're basically seeing the legacy of this couple renovating a little cottage in Sundborn.
Fundamentally, yes. It's quite remarkable.
And for you listening, if you want to see this place that started it all, the Karl and Karin Larsson home, Lilla Hittnes, it's still open to visitors today in Sundborn. You can actually go there.
It's supposed to be wonderful.
Now, while they were creating this revolutionary home style, Karl was also hitting massive commercial success as an artist.
The timing was just perfect for him. The technology for color reproduction was really taking off in the 1890s, early 1900s.
Meaning his light, airy watercolors could finally be mass-printed effectively.
Exactly. And a German publisher, Karl Rober Langwische, saw the potential. He put together a book of Larsson's work focused on the home and family scenes, published it in 1909.
It took off.
Took off is an understatement. It was an absolute phenomenon. Sold 40,000 copies in just 3 months.
40,000 in 3 months. In 1909. That's incredible.
Unbelievable numbers for the time. They were apparently completely surprised by it. And that book, it's been reprinted over 40 times since then. He achieved this lasting global fame just by painting his family life.
But, and this is a big but, despite that incredible success with the domestic scenes, Larsson himself had other ambitions, didn't he?
He did. He really considered his most important work to be his large-scale public commissions, frescoes in schools, museums. That was what he saw as his major artistic statement.
And the pinnacle of that was supposed to be Midwinter Sacrifice.
Yes, this was his magnum opus, intended for the prime spot in the National Museum in Stockholm. A huge painting, 20 feet by 46 feet. Massive.
He finished it in 1915.
And the museum's board rejected it. Outright rejected it, even though they already had other works by him.
Ouch! After all that work for the National Museum, that must have been devastating.
Utterly crushing. The sources say he was incredibly bitter. He wrote in his memoir, Jag, that the whole saga with that painting broke me. Broke him. Strong words. For an artist who'd pulled himself up from nothing, become a national icon, to have his crowning public achievement rejected by the very institution it was for.
It was a massive emotional blow. He'd poured so much into those grand public statements, perhaps seeing them as his route to historical significance.
And the controversy didn't just go away, did it?
No, it dragged on for decades. The museum just wouldn't accept Mid-Vinterblot. There were arguments about its artistic merit, its historical accuracy. Eventually, it was sold off to a Japanese collector, believe it or not.
So it didn't even stay in Sweden?
Not for a long time. But public opinion and the art world, they never really let it go. People kept advocating for it. Imagine that feeling the work he felt defined his public legacy is rejected, breaks him, and then it takes almost a century after his death
For it to finally come home?
Yes. Through a lot of public pressure and private donations, the painting was eventually bought back. And in 1997, it was finally hung in the National Museum in Stockholm, right where Larsson always intended it to be.
Wow. A very, very delayed vindication. Extremely delayed. But it got there in the end.
What strikes me, though, is that even in the midst of all that bitterness, that deep professional wound over Mid-Vinterblot, Larsson seemed to recognize where his real success lay.
He did. Towards the end, he acknowledged it in his memoirs. He said that the paintings of his family, the ones from Lilla Hittnes, were the most immediate and lasting part of my life's work.
Driven by his limitless love for my wife and children.
Exactly. It's this fascinating paradox, isn't it? He suffered later in life, dealt with depression, health issues like eye problems, headaches. He passed away in January 1919 while working on those memoirs.
But the work that endured, the work that continues to influence us today, wasn't the grand public statement he fought so hard for.
No, it was the domestic work, the art born out of that collaboration with Karin, out of love, and maybe out of that deep-seated desire to build the complete opposite of the miserable childhood he escaped. That's what truly passed the relevance test of time, as the source material puts it. It defined this warm, light, functional Swedish style that still resonates everywhere.
So, thinking about this for you, the listener, what do we take away? There's this really stark contrast, isn't there? Larsson finds true, global, lasting success with these deeply personal paintings of his home life. Yet he experiences this immense, debilitating bitterness over the rejection of one huge public painting.
It makes you think.
What does that teach us about how we value our own work, maybe? Is it possible that the private passion project, the thing we do out of love or personal need, sometimes ends up being far more resonant, more impactful than the big public statement we pour all our ambition into?
That's a really profound thought to end on. The Larsson story certainly shows the power of creating something sincere, something built from the ground up, quite literally in their case, focusing on warmth, light, and how life is actually lived.
Well, we hope this deep dive into Carl and Karin Larsson's incredible journey, their art, and their influence has been enlightening for you. And remember, this whole discussion was inspired by the fantastic content over at Anita Louise Art.
Yeah, if you enjoyed this kind of exploration and the depth we went into, we really encourage you to check out Anita Louise Art. Loads more great art history content there.
And if you're more of a visual learner or just want more insights like these, definitely subscribe to the Anita Louise Art YouTube channel. There are videos and info there that really bring art history to life.
Finally, don't forget to sign up for our free newsletter. It's the best way to join the community and get more insights like this delivered right to your inbox.
Thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive.
We'll see you next time.